delighted to say that coming up on the show throughout the whole 3 hours, joining me is former Conservative Government Advisor Claire Pearson, as always on a Wednesday. Very, very good morning. Looking very summery today as well.
Enjoying the heat wave.
Are you enjoying it? Okay, let's talk about the important. Sod World War III.
Sunshine.
Are you enjoying it? A lot of Brits aren't. We like a couple of days on a Saturday or Sunday. We have a Barbie, lovely jobby, and then we like it to go back to something a bit more normal.
Yeah, I do like the heat, so it doesn't bother me too much. Apart from in the evening when you go upstairs, really hot upstairs, so you have to have a fan on. But you know, I can suffer that. I prefer this.
Yeah, I'd prefer this to rain.
Yeah.
I think we're getting a summer. I have to say, when they warn about, we may be getting 40 degree plus heat waves, for, and they've got a yellow weather warning. Because apparently, if you're vulnerable or elderly, you don't know it's hot unless the BBC Met Office tells you that it is. Because they obviously think you're as thick as they think the rest of us are. But it is quite like, oh, by the way, it's hot out there. No, really?
You just have to look out the window, don't you? But I mean, there are things.
That said, I have a teenager who will look out the window and look at rain and still not take an umbrella. So what can I do?
Well, yes, I have similar. Doesn't take a coat even when it's in -2 temperatures. So yeah, I'm with you on that one.
So we've done the important stuff. We've covered the important topic of the day. Let's get to the real business. Look, I want to hear from you when it comes to grooming gangs, whether or not they are a border security issue. That is what the Tories are claiming. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary. It's what Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, is saying, who we do expect actually to be at PMQs today. Actually, Angela Rayner was taking PMQs because Keir Starmer was conveniently in the sky on the way back from that G7 summit, and Angela Rayner would be taking it. Now, normally it would be, he's the shadow Chancellor Duchy of Lancaster. I mean, who? I think it's Alex Berg who took it last time. But I have a funny feeling Kemi Badenoch is going to want to have her say, particularly on the issue of grooming gangs. But our question today is, Tories claiming that grooming gangs are a border security issue, with many suspects of sex abuse now foreign or claiming asylum. That's what Louise Casey says. Now, if I say it, I'm a racist. Okay, hi Owen Jones, hi Emily Maitlis, hi all the usual suspects. Okay, Keir Starmer, that would make me a racist. If, however, Baroness Casey, a Labour peer, says it, based on exactly the same facts, then it's true and needs to be acted on. But it's always interesting to know that they care about who says things rather than the actual facts. Okay, if Tommy Robinson says it and it's true, it's still true. And if, I don't know, Jess Phillips, who claims she's, the only person looking after children in this country, victims of abuse, says it and it's not true, then it's still not true. But anyway, many suspects of sex abuse, live cases that she looked at, a disproportionate number were foreign or those claiming asylum. We know sex abuse statistics, sex attacker statistics, not just child abuse. The 1 in 4, at least 26%, at least 1 in 4 sex attack suspects who are prosecuted and convicted are foreign born. And there's quite a big percentage more who we don't know their nationality status. I think, as with the case of the grooming gangs, when it's not recorded, it's because no one wants you to know. And I think we can make safe assumptions that we can probably add another 10% or something onto that. What is your reaction to that? That's what I want to hear from you. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at Talk TV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1, standard network rate message. But as always, get in touch about anything we're talking about. Claire, what is your reaction to that?
With the border security issue, I mean, there is an issue. There is a proper problem with not recording the nationality and ethnicity data. Now, that is ongoing. It has been a problem for some time. I think that Chris Philp needs to take a long, hard look at himself.
Shadow Home Secretary, yeah.
Shadow Home Secretary, Shadow Justice. He has been in those departments whilst in government. So you could argue, why wasn't that changed?
Whenever the Tories shout about, Keir Starmer's got a point here when they shout and scream about stuff like, what were you? You were in the department.
Why
you weren't
you
weren't the PM. I get it, but you still didn't do anything about it.
But you didn't, and we need to understand exactly who is committing crimes, and you should be able to do that without being accused of being racist. If somebody's breaking the law, if somebody is committing abhorrent crimes,
it's utterly irrelevant. Exactly. Here's my thing. It's really simple. It's just sort of, yes, there are we have plenty of British people who deal drugs and rape and murder and steal and commit sex attacks and commit child abuse. Yes, well, we've got those people and we need to deal with them.
Yeah.
Maybe not a good idea to import a load more people to do all of those things. I don't know. Old-fashioned, I know. But we also know when it comes to pretty much any crime at all, statistically, there are certain countries who are immigrant to this country, certain nationals from certain countries, who are more likely to be committing crimes, and who are more likely to be convicted of crimes. And we know that the same countries come up again and again and again. Yeah. And there's some Middle Eastern countries and North African countries. Albania comes up. A high, incredible amount of organised criminality in Albania. You could like it or not like it, it's a fact. Anyone living in Albania will be able to tell you that. So, it is like, pickpockets on London transport, virtually all Romanian. Okay, you can be angry about it, but that's a fact. But it seems to me to be very obvious that it wouldn't be a good idea. And I'm kind of in Donald Trump territory on this. And I don't support everything he does. I do support some things. I'm just, whether is an idea good or not? I'm pretty sure that we should really start thinking about Trumpian-style bans on default visas for people from certain countries where they have medieval views towards women and children. Yes, Pakistan, I'm thinking of you. A number of countries, they just simply do not, the average person in these countries does simply not share our values. They are very unlikely statistically to be economic contributors. We can pick and choose people, but there should be a default that you are not going to be someone who can easily get into our country. Yeah. Unless you can prove you are a massive benefit to our country and that you share values. I don't think that should be a controversial view.
No, I don't. There need to be some repercussions for those countries. Now, if you are the head of state of whichever country it is, and we're saying, actually, we're now going to cut the visas down, you did get 100,000, you're going to have 25,000 this year.
No, not even. Too many. No one from your country comes in unless they can be absolutely sure.
You get my point. Yeah. You cut it right down so it's a notable difference to them, and you say, and we're not going to change this, and you've now got 2 years to sort yourselves out. It should be for a longer period of time.
There are reasons, and again, that's what a lot of people were very angry about. Like it's Asian gangs. It wasn't. It was men from a particular community from areas in Pakistan where they have particularly medieval views. And again, no, don't say that. It's right. No, it's not. If you view women as, Nigel Farage said it. They're not even second-class citizens in many countries. They don't even have those rights. If you come from a country where women are forced to cover up, where you can't, a woman is raped and she's the one who gets punished for being, an adulterer or something, where children are routinely sexually abused and are used as child prostitutes openly, and it's kind of not even something that there is shame about. I think this is not a country we should be doing much business with. Certainly not in terms of allowing people to discuss. Again, not sure why that's controversial, but there we are. Give us a call. It's like, nightclubs. Like, no, you can't bring in a large group of blokes. You have to have women with you because you're more likely to cause trouble. And we accept that. We accept it, because we've run a nightclub for 20 years, and every time we let a large group of blokes in and they get really drunk and they haven't got ladies with them, they're more likely to start a fight. So we don't let them in. Now they've actually started banning Hindus because they're worse in terms of trouble,
But they are, and if you try to rent an apartment or a cottage or something, if it's a hen weekend... Yeah.
So we're allowed to make rules where we're allowed to go, look, on balance of probabilities, it's not looking good for us. Well, on the balance of probabilities, I'm thinking letting in people from certain countries is not looking good for us, well, particularly not for our children, but there we are. We've still got the issue of child sex offenders' ethnicity going unrecorded, something that Louise Casey's talked about yesterday, Baroness who carried out the review. Again, they ask your ethnicity, would you join a library?
Yeah, they do.
So how on earth are they not recording it? Of course they're recording it. We had a police officer on yesterday who spoke anonymously. Of course they're recording it. They just deliberately do it in a way.
Well, they do, but why is it hidden? Why is it hidden? Why should you not put what your ethnicity is?
Well, we know why it's hidden.
Doesn't make you a racist if you're going to put down what nationality or ethnicity somebody is.
What do you make of Keir Starmer refusing repeatedly in interviews, Sky News the ones who tackled it the best on this, but refusing repeatedly to apologise or say he regretted for saying that people were jumping on a far-right bandwagon when they were calling for the public inquiry. He said, even though, of course, he's now jumping on that far-right bandwagon because he's calling for a public inquiry, his defence is, well, I was criticising politicians who shout and scream but don't then do anything about it. But he's exactly the same, isn't he? Because he came into office and for almost Yeah, I mean, 11 and a half months. He didn't institute a national statutory public inquiry into this issue. And he had the opportunity to do it, and he categorically said not to. And when there was a Tory vote on it, Tory amendment, they whipped Labour MPs to vote against it. So he did exactly the same. He is exactly what he accuses other people of being.
Yeah, he is, but he won't apologise because it's what he believes. He believes that anybody that is questioning it is heinously right-wing or a far-right idiot or whatever other words he wants to use. That's what he believes. That's why he's never going to apologise for it. He has been pushed into this, whether he likes it or not, by the likes of Reform, by parts of the Conservative Party. He doesn't like to be
by Elon Musk.
Yeah, by Elon Musk.
I have to say also, I'm going to shout out Charlie Peters, reporter at
absolutely.
Our rival GB News, but Charlie Peters, big shout out to him, amazing young reporter,
completely,
who's done amazing work on this. Literally sits in the grooming gang trials, does the work.
He does. I mean, he is excellent, and he has highlighted this time after time after time. But I think Keir Starmer doesn't ever want to admit that he was wrong on this.
I don't think he ever does.
To weasel it out.
Imagine being married to Keir Starmer, because you know that this is a man who would never. No, I never said that. Yes, you did. Yeah, you did. You know those rows, those 3 a.m. Went, yes, you did. I never did. He would stand and he would believe it. I genuinely. I tweeted yesterday. I think the guy is a lying charlatan. I've met him.
Yeah.
He may well be at an event I go to later this week, and I'm sure we'll get on perfectly well, have a nice conversation. But I genuinely find him so unlikable and so unconvincing. I think he's so arrogant and self-believing. He just but with no substance.
He's
absolutely no substance. No, I don't think he's. I think he thinks he's. Benedict Spence, who formerly of this parish, we hope very much soon will soon be back on the show. Benedict Spence sent an interesting tweet yesterday, post on X, saying that the thing about all these Labour people and people on the left who are horrified, they say, and why did they not take action? Why did they just shout racist to everyone calling out the grooming gang scandal? Is that they genuinely believe that being racist is the worst thing in the world, and it's worse than violence or criminal acts or even raping a child. Racism is the worst thing, and so you could never risk being racist, and you must attack people for racism over anything else. It doesn't matter that child safety is at risk. And I think that actually nails it for a lot of people in the Labour Party and in the Labour cabinet.
They want to be seen as the better person, and they believe that anybody else must be a racist and a bigot, and therefore you are the worst person ever. And they're not, and they can hold their heads up at their Islington dinner parties and clutch their pearls and everything.
We always talk about Islington dinner parties, but I cannot tell you how important this. Should we get to the small matter of war in the Middle East? Sorry, we should have probably got to that a bit sooner rather than talking about the heat wave, but come on. We're going to be talking to the Israeli ambassador in the next 20 minutes or so. A lot of talk about Donald Trump being poised to enter the war between Israel and Iran. We're on the sixth day. We are looking at significant escalation. Lots of the posts on social media from Donald Trump saying, we know where Khamenei is, the supreme leader. By the way, great job title. Julia Hartley-Brewer, supreme leader of the Julia Hartley-Brewer show. That we know where he's hiding, but we're not going to assassinate him yet. Lots of exclamation marks. I mean, this is, again, not how diplomacy should be done. That said, I don't trust diplomacy behind the scenes either. There's a lot of talk about if they want to destroy crucial Iranian nuclear site, the Fordow facility, believed to be, dozens and dozens of yards below rock underground. The only country that's got the bombs is America that could do this. This is a 30,000 GBU 57 FB massive ordnance penetrator bomb. This has a thick steel outer casing that can, this is amazing, it can penetrate 65 yards of concrete before exploding. I mean, that is a serious bomb. Now, I'm all in favour of the US getting involved at this point. I'm not entirely sure that Iran is that big a threat anymore, given the way the Israelis have, thankfully, degraded their ability to defend themselves. It looks like, Iran did a fly past. So Israel did a fly past, literally like our fly past, over the palace, over Tehran. That's how much control of the skies they've got. We should be thanking Israel rather than saying, could you please stop, shouldn't we?
Well, of course we should, because any war that escalates in that region is going to affect the rest of the world. So Israel being right on their doorstep and putting preemptive strikes out there to stop enriched uranium being put into weapons, absolutely gets my support.
Yeah, people standing on the streets of Britain or America waving flags for Iran, like, yeah,
stop.
I mean,
stop
so wrong about everything.
Yeah.